And what about music? I've heard that music is also a trend in advertising because now advertising becomes more musical. Without words, only music.
Well, without word, I don't know, but music for me was always important. Mm-hmm. For me, I think it's even more important than the image. Mm-hmm. For me, personally, I think if I take, for instance, the cinema by itself, always a big success of a movie is associated with the music. Mm-hmm. You can take everywhere. So I think the music really brings, supports the image. And I think music is really minimum 50% of the success, I think, minimum. Sometimes more even, it's personal. That means in advertising, I think also the music and the soundtrack itself becomes extremely important, more important than before. And also, imagine, for instance, the techniques, the more progress you have now in cinema theaters, and even in home cinema, is on the sound. What is the home cinema is sound around, yeah? It's sound. The image, okay, the image is now perfect with the plasma, etc. But there is 10 times more progress, I think, in the music part. You know, the environment of sound. So I think sound and music is extremely important in advertising as in cinema in general.
And one more question, how do you think advertising must force the consumer to buy something, or it must just inform about product?
Not inform. Advertising is not information, frankly. It's not information. Information is journalist, to be clear. Force, you cannot never force, and even you cannot convince, because the whole advertising system tried to convince people, you know? Okay. But I think this time has really gone, so it's more seduction. You have to seduce the client.
Yes.
Your brand must be seductive. You must seduce, and I mean, people. You must bring people to love your brand. Let's say, you cannot convince anybody. I think it's not a problem of conviction. It was maybe the beginning of advertising, you know, to convince, you know, like blum blum blum, like this. I think it's to seduce. Seduce, not exactly the French seduction. Is not the word seduce in English, you know, because seduce in English has a connotation of sex, right?
Yes.
So I don't know what is the exact translation of seduction in French, seduction in Russian. Как сказать? To seduce, seduction.
Соблазнить.
Соблазнить, exactly. Соблазнить. So соблазнить is the exact word, because соблазнить has no sexual meaning, right?
A little, yeah.
A little, but just in French, a little, not too much. Because again, sex and advertising doesn't work together. We know there are, no, of course not. There is no, this is an old image saying nobody uses sex really.
For some brands maybe.
Who?
For some brands maybe.
Never sex, really very, to make, for instance, sex or nude woman, etc. You never see that. You see that in cheap advertising. But there are really a lot of let's say, areas where advertising doesn't go, especially in Russia. There is a lot of taboo, let's say. Really, sex is a taboo. You don't go too far, a little, let's say, like you don't go to religion, you don't go to politics, right? So these three areas, I think politics, religion, and sex is not really the area of advertising. It's vulgar, you know. Sex, as it is, can be vulgar, you know. It's not, I mean, it could come to pornography very quickly.
Yeah,
so it's a little, let's say, flavor of seduction. But you don't see many campaigns on the street or on TV with sex. I don't see it, really.
Really?
No, really? Do you see that?
No.
No, you don't. No, seduction is not sex. It's attraction. Attraction. To love, to be loved.
Okay. I suppose that's enough.
For me, it's okay, as you want. Yeah?
For me, that's...
No more questions?
One more question. One more question. For me.
Yes?
Just for me.
Please.
Personal question. The history of your slogans "Чистота, чистота" and "Музыкаев." For me, it's very interesting.
So, Чистота was my first work as a creative in Russia.
It's classic.
It's a classic. I know it's in the books, you know. I discovered really in the books, in the schools, people, let's say, teach how a good slogan must be built.
Yes.
Well, of course, it was not done by a method, you know, because creativity is spontaneous. Because I think there is no method to find an idea. You see what I mean?
I understand.
And even my philosophy is that we don't find ideas. Ideas find us. They come to us.
How?
They are in the air, they are somewhere, and they choose somebody. They say, I want this guy, I go to this guy. Believe me, this is exactly how it works. They choose me to come. And then I don't need to keep it with myself. I have not to be selfish. I have to pass it to other people because they have to move. Ideas must move. And the good proof is that some big ideas are born in different countries in very far from in the same time. You know, so that's why they travel a lot, ideas. So, well, it's a little philosophic, but I think there is no method to find ideas. It comes suddenly, inspiration. Чистота, of course, the idea came from чисто, of course. This was the beginning. I want to say чисто, okay, because cleaning powder is чисто, okay? And then I had the idea of чистота, and sound of чистота brings me to tide. So, but don't think it was easy, because it's not easy to sell a slogan to a client. It's not saying, oh, it's fantastic. No, it was difficult because we have to work to have 20 of them. Then there's a yes, maybe no. Believe me. And when it's bought, when it's on the screen, then it becomes a big success, and everybody says it's fantastic. But it's never happens. You know, you never see it immediately. It's like a diamond, you know. Diamond is a stone. You have to polish it. And so Чистота was born like this, spontaneously, but it was not immediately, you know, sold to the client. And then I'm very happy because really I heard it was maybe one of the slogans that was the most popular in Russia.
Yes,
I know,
yes,
everybody knows. So
top 10.
And they say it's me. It's very good. The father of Чистота. That's true. It's me really. It's nobody else. And it was my first work for Procter & Gamble for Tide. It was in 93, I think, 93, 94, when I started for working for Procter with another agency. Yeah. And then for Europa Plus, Muzikaiv is more recent. It was maybe 5-6 years before the campaign. So it came very simply by contraction of two words, muzika and kaif. It's because the idea we want to say was muzika, которая дает кайф. Muzika и кайф. Muzikaiv. That's the way. It's contraction because, again, if you want to stay the secret of that, as I'm a foreigner, I'm French, okay? Russian is my mother language, that's true, because my mother is Russian, she's in Paris, so I was speaking Russian, but not well. So I have all the basics of Russian in my head, but I never learned it in the school grammar, so that's why I have a freedom to play with the words. A Russian purely guy will never say чистота because it's not really Russian, right? It's a play on words. You play with it. So a foreigner, French guy like me that speaks Russian can have the freedom to play with it. Чистота, and Muzikaiv is the same. Muzikaiv is not Russian. That's why, but I think the way that, in fact, I'm a foreigner, gives me the freedom to play with words more.